But what I didn't know, what I'm doing right now, I didn't know that this was in me. So I've been featured in Architectural Digest. I've been featured in Business Insider, USA Today, Travel and Leisure, Black Enterprise. The Wall Street Journal came to my house. Airbnb came to my house a couple weeks ago to shoot a mini documentary style interview. And there was this whole production crew at my house. When I was working in probation, getting that check, and they just got a nice raise too. Is my audio good? Can you hear me? Can you hear me good?
Yeah, you're solid, brother. I got you.
Okay.
So give me the news. What happened? What bluster did you have to, deal with just now?
Oh, I had a guest check in at 3:30 yesterday. My tiny houses are all in my property. They're all behind my house. Been hosting for 5 years. Transparency is so important, especially being in East Oakland, where I am.
Okay.
This is not my first rodeo. Guest shows up. I just happen to be outside, and they left. I happened to be outside when they were leaving, and I said, "Oh, you guys are checking out?" They said, "Yeah, we didn't realize it was in somebody's backyard." Now, on my listing, it says I live there. There's a picture of the front of my house. The tiny houses are in the backyard. They enter through the front gate, and then they walk through. I mean, everything is private. We just enter the property through the same gate. So they said, "We love the space. It's beautiful. We just didn't think it was in somebody's backyard. We're two young girls traveling from across the country." And they said, "We're just going to go get a hotel." So I'm outside. I'm like, "Okay, well, it was a pleasure meeting you." Now, I'm already knowing what's going to happen. Then I get that message from Airbnb. "Hey, the guest is saying your listing is not as described." Now, I'm a 4.9. Let me make sure I'm accurate. As of today, my rating on Airbnb is, over the course of 5 years, 4.96 with 468 reviews. So Airbnb contacts me saying that my listing is inaccurate. And I said, I'm a super host. I'm an Airbnb community leader. I'm an ambassador. You can check my resume. My listing is as described. In fact, you guys pay me to help other people on board. So I'm not sure what to say. Long story short, they deny her refund. And then she starts getting at me in the messages, which for me is like great, because I know she's going to leave a 1-star review. And I'm not going to say retaliation. I'm like,
yeah.
And it was, but unfortunately, this was her first time using Airbnb. So, bad experience for her. Unfortunately, she didn't read the listing. I also have a password on my listing that I require people to send me the password. That way I know that they read everything. My neighborhood is noisy. There's some trash in the area. I'm on a bus route. One of my neighbors has a rooster. I put it all out there. It helps. It's good for my business, and it's good for the guest. The guest that doesn't want to hear rooster in the morning, they deserve to know that. So I know that this review is going to be bad. I'm going to try to fight it and get it removed. And this just happened last night. So hopefully, with the new changes on Airbnb, guests will be able to see your worst review. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, the update.
Oh yeah, I mean, on the call that we had, Brian,
yeah,
going over all those details. Man.
It's going to be, it used to be, if you got a review that wasn't so great, it would be pushed down, right? And then, eventually your good reviews will push that down. But now it's like, hey, let me see what this person said back in 2019. Oh, that's horrible. It may impact somebody's decision to book or not based on one review from years ago. So.
I think it will. Ansel, but, personally, I find that I utilize that sort of review myself when it comes to purchasing products and discerning whether or not I'm making a quality decision. And I think you can oftentimes take the good with the bad, or at least I know I do in my decision making. And I do believe that a lot of others are sensible in understanding, okay, yes, there are issues that occur and arise. For instance, I had to do work on a property. We had a guest just the other day check out one half of the duplex, and they damaged the wall in the bathroom. And so I had my handy guy go over there next day to repair the issue. And my plumber had to come and replace one of the handles for the shower, right? And so he's over there working. I totally forgot to let the guests know on the other side of the duplex that the plumber was going to be there and handle that work. And so, the guest calls me directly on my cell phone. Hey, Joshua, I just left a great walk in the community, went to some of the spots that you recommended, but I just got back and there's no water in the house. And I was like, oh my gosh, it totally slipped my mind to communicate with you, Freddie. I'm so sorry. Let me check and confirm how long this is going to take. I apologize for the inconvenience, right? And so I say all that to say, yes, Freddie and I just literally had dinner 2 nights ago at one of my favorite taco spots. He was telling me about his business and why he was in the area from San Diego traveling. It just so happened that my contractor that I work with, Freddie, had dropped off some of his paperwork for his business, and we were talking about that. And so I was able to form a relationship with him, and he was sensible in this moment where there was a slippage in my service that I was providing because I failed to communicate, right? And so I think that most people will be like Freddie. Most people will be like myself when they see that, okay, the good far outweighs the bad, and I'm not going to just hang my hat on this few instances of someone being disgruntled or dissatisfied with service, because I see all these many other instances of where, the host has really provided a quality product, and I'm going to, take that as an indication of what they do.
I totally agree with that. And, I'm a firm believer in realizing that without the guest, right, there is no Airbnb, there is no travel. They bring the money to the platform. And I was telling a friend last night that, if somebody sees that review and that outweighs my track record, I probably don't want to do business with that person. Because they're just, they may be unreasonable. Whereas if somebody sees that and then they see my response to that review, the 1-star review that I got, if they still book, then I know that, that's somebody who completely understands that in business, there are some people that are there's going to be situations where people get upset, sometimes justified, sometimes not justified. And every time that I've made a mistake, I owned it. I've made my guess whole. I would like to think that I've overcompensated, but that's the way I would like to be treated. If the business that I'm patronizing, if they make a mistake, I like to go above and beyond. So when guests see the one-off, and it's literally a one-off, because of where I'm located, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Bay Area.
Oh, I love San Francisco and the Bay Area. I like to be over there as much as possible.
Where are you based out of?
So I'm in Orlando, and I love it here. I went to college down here. It's got small town vibes, but it's very robust and blooming with tons of economic opportunity and just the diversification of business from transitioning away from primarily being tourism based. Whenever I talk to people about Airbnb and short-term rentals, they're like, oh my God, it's got to be heavily saturated over there. And I'm like, you're thinking of Kissimmee, you're thinking of Disney, and that is on the other side of town. We don't go over there. We operate in the city limits and the county limits, and it's just a totally different experience, a totally different client base that you're servicing. Yes, we do still get some of those tourist seekers that are going to the parks like Universal and SeaWorld or what have you. But the short-term rentals market is so much more abundant than just vacation rentals. That's a small subset of the short-term rental market. And that's one thing that I find that a lot of people who have come to the business over the last 3 years, pandemic, era where Airbnb was just like the hot topic, gold rush buzzword, get rich quick thing. They didn't understand that, there's a lot of value to be had and money to be made and impact to be had in the communities that you service in just everyday neighborhoods.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so me being in the Bay Area, in Oakland, in East Oakland, the infamous East Oakland, Too Short and all that good stuff. I am extremely transparent about some of the challenges, some of the quality of life challenges that exist. We can go, Oakland is a block by block city. You can go from hot to cold, with the turn of a corner. And so when you have that component and you're transparent about it, and then there's, I think that the person that's on the fence about booking might be swayed by a bad review, the person that's on the fence. And I also think about myself, like when I'm buying something on the Amazon, I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon and I never leave a review. And I'm like, I'll only leave a review if I'm compelled to by something that went bad. But I never leave a review when things are exactly as they were described. I just bought a USB mic. You're going to hook it up before we got on. Get some crisp audio. But I anticipate it working. The reviews are amazing, and I probably won't go back and leave a review. So the 1-star review for me, it doesn't outweigh the fact that the vast majority of these people are they enjoy the product, and if something is wrong, then Amazon has a great return policy. So I do recognize the challenges, but I have to put my trust in the market that these good travelers, reasonable travelers, are going to look at the quality that I provide and continue to book. I've been in this business for 5 years, and I've done a lot of research. And I'm learning some things that surprised me. There's an article that talks about how profitable the Motel 6 is.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. They've had like a 30%, 40% increase in bookings since the last, I want to say 18 months.
And it's always been like that, because with changes in the economy, they don't have to drop their price. So you mentioned Disney. Disneyland, I don't know how it is in Orlando, but in Anaheim, in LA, all of the accommodations outside of Disneyland are economy stays.
Mm-hmm.
And without those economy stays, I think most families would not be able to afford a trip to Disneyland. It's already expensive.
They just raised the prices across all of their parks, literally.
Right.
I want to say, since Bob Chapek was ousted, that was a big complaint that a lot of season pass holders had, because he was really extracting a lot of their profitability from the parks section of the business and increasing prices. And so Bob Iger comes back in and acknowledges, okay, we were a little too aggressive, but 6 months later they're raising the prices again.
So you take those, you remove your Southwest Airlines from the world, you remove the economy stays. How many people can afford to stay at the Disney resort inside the park, right? $500 a night, give or take. It's just not reasonable. So when I found that out, and I'm sure that if somebody's having challenges getting bookings, you just lower that price. Somebody will snatch it up. They may not even look at the reviews. They're just like, oh, that's my price point. I'm in there. So I'm definitely confident in where my business is headed. I was definitely making a little more my nightly rates, I would say 2020 was the year for me where, I saw 250 a night in the tiny house. And I was just like, wow. Um, not getting those bookings these days, but my business is so profitable that I don't have to. I mean, I could literally be at 60 a night and still be my ROI of these tiny houses. I would still be killing it. A much better ROI than a traditional property, because these are considered trailers. About the first one for 33,000, the second one for 35,000, and between those two, a bad month would be, a bad, and I don't even want to say bad. I never had bad months. $6,000 a month is a bad month off of a less than $70,000 investment.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Thankfully, I have the property that accommodates those, and you know, there's not a lot of people that can pull that off, but it's covering. When we talk about financial independence, the fact that these structures in my backyard cover my mortgage, 4 times, and I think I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started. I was even talking to a friend, like, you know what? I think I'm able to dip my toe to the hotel space. What would it look like if I, bought a hotel and remodeled it and ran an operation, taking what I've learned from the short-term rental space and now, really taking it to the next level. Something that I never considered, but I have thoughts and ideas.
That's incredible. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm gonna try to touch all of it. So first and foremost, I want to highlight the fact that you are investing in an area that might otherwise be ignored. Clearly, it's ignored by the commercial space when you talk about, hotels and what have you, because, there are many hotel deserts all over the place because of, just the demographics from socioeconomics and income perspective. And not even just hotels. We can look at Target, Walmart, Walgreens, big box retailers, closing stores because of a lot of the shrink issues that they're having with some of the organized crime rings and the theft that we have, right? And so when you have a lot of detraction from commercial providers in these spaces, that does not erase the needs of the community that still exist in those spaces. And so that provides an opportunity. And so for you and your approach existing in that space, I love that you're able to still add value to an area and be transparent, be upfront about the condition, the expectation setting that goes into the stay there. But the fact that when you talk about the priciness of just, commodities and the leisure, extra leisure travel or what have you, when we're just talking about Disney or what have you, families, human beings, we still have needs. And one of the things we need the most, aside from air to breathe, water to drink, is shelter to stay in, and for you to be providing that shelter in these areas and to be speaking of the returns that you're receiving and the entry point and the initial cost that it took to get into that space, that is fantastic. That financial independence component is what we're all about. To hear, especially your journey coming from being a law enforcement officer prior to this in Airbnb. I would love for you to talk more about just how that influenced your current short-term rental approach, and then that journey into the financial independence space. Can you just give us some more on that?
Yeah. So I'm guessing you saw the Business Insider article where I talked about.
I did it. I read Business Insider all the time. So how I missed this, I don't know, but I'm definitely gonna go with this.
How do you find out about? And I used to work in law enforcement.
Well, so before we got on, you spilled out some questions for us because I sent you a
Oh,
request. You were like, okay, I'm going to answer these. And so I was like, oh, this is super dope.
okay. Slipped my mind. So yeah, the question was, how did my career in law enforcement? Um, I'm sorry. Can you restate the question?
Yeah. So you're doing very well right now, serving a community. And you're serving yourself also, right? I know that in California, we have a lot of issues with affordable housing, really nationwide, right? And the fact that you're able to use your property as efficiently as you are to establish some financial independence for yourself as a former law enforcement officer, can you talk about your journey through, really pursuing financial independence, and some of the struggle that you may have had in your service as a first responder and where you are presently, how that service has informed your ability to be successful, and where you see yourself moving going forward.
Great question. So I worked in probation, 5 years in a in custody setting with juveniles. The next 5 years, supervising adult probationers in San Francisco, and then the last um, 4 years supervising adult probationers in Oakland, and then I was supervising officers. I had promoted to management right before I submitted my resignation. Working as a government employee with the excellent benefits and the good pay, they pay law enforcement officers very well out here. Um, it was it was hard to leave that paycheck. And I'll say that even me purchasing my home where I bought it, that actually a lot of the influence because I bought it in I like to call my neighborhood a blue collar neighborhood. Most of my neighbors work in construction and their partners are stay at home wives. Um, you know, very little curb appeal. And a couple blocks over, you'll find a homeless encampment. And so but it's not like I don't consider this the hood. And I'm from Oakland. There's areas where you drive down the street and you just see a congregation of people just there, right? Standing outside of projects or like a store, and there's always something going on in those areas. To the blind eye or a person that's not familiar, they might think that my area is one of those areas just because there are some blighted properties, and it's just not as well kept. I am about a mile away from the Oakland Coliseum, about 2 miles away from the Oakland Airport. And so these are, my street is not like an industrial street, but it is a major corridor and it connects to a commercial area. It's a straight shot. And every now and then we have trucks coming through and stuff like that. So being in law enforcement and knowing that there's a difference between an area where people are constantly engaged in violent behavior and an area that is just straight up blue collar working class people that are I don't want to say I wouldn't consider my neighbors like trying to make it. I would say it's like a just moderate income neighborhood, old school neighborhood, and it hasn't been gentrified. But I knew that buying my house there, I wasn't gonna have there was not gonna be a bidding war with this house, fixer upper, and it wasn't a dangerous area. And so I was like, oh, this is a gold mine, I bought this home for I used a 203K FHA loan, which is a
That's the one you can roll in the rehab cost into?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
you got a golden ticket, man, because
so
that is a hard thing to wrangle down for.
it is hard. It is very hard because the construction cost versus the purchase price has to match up, and the bank has to say, okay, if you do this, then it will appraise for this amount, and it has to match up, right? And the only way that happens is if you get a good deal, right? Because the contractor is going to get paid on top of labor, on top of materials. Then there's their additional fee, and it's got to match up. So I got really lucky with that, and a lot of real estate professionals don't touch that because it's just really hard to close. So buying this house, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fix this up. It was just me, single income. My son hadn't been born yet, so I was just thinking, let me get a piece of property before prices skyrocket. Now my home is worth. I came up to 215 total. Now it's worth 500,000, and so we're talking about a really low mortgage, right? So it was
3% interest rate.
Below 2 point something.
Oh, beautiful, baby.
So we're talking about, at that time, a mortgage was 1,200, and I refinanced since then and pulled some money out. We gonna put that equity to work. All right, just sitting there dormant ain't gonna do me no good. Pulled out some money some years ago and I still have actually when the rates dropped, so I refinanced, got a lower interest rate, and pulled out some money, and so now we're at 1,600 with taxes and insurance combined, and out of the backyard, a quote unquote bad month with the 3 spaces we're talking like 9,000. If I really feel like working, because I do all my own cleaning and everything, which is, that's work. That laundry, if anybody is thinking about this, unless you have a crew, and if you're going to do this yourself, that laundry, that cleaning, cleaning is the backbone of this short-term rental business, right? Without, you can't turn the space over if it's not clean. So if I really wanted to work hard, which I don't,
I don't blame you.
we're talking, we could approach, maybe 11, 12,000 out of my backyard. In this neighborhood that, with my knowledge, living in Oakland, working in law enforcement, that, this is a gold mine. This is not unsafe. And the crazy thing about that is Oakland, the Bay Area, has been in the news for, it's gotten really bad. Like robberies are up by like 40% this year. Auto burglaries, like it's gotten really bad in the Bay Area. And none of that crime is in my neighborhood. And so the way that works is, well, people that are doing bad things, they want to make money. So if you're looking to steal from somebody, you want to steal from somebody that has stuff to steal. So they prey upon the tourists, which is really horrible that they're preying upon anybody. But so the few times where a guest have had their vehicle broken into, they were in areas where I can't afford to live, right? They were in the touristy areas, or on a hike where the homes are multi-million-dollar homes. They park, they leave their car, they're going on a hike, somebody breaks in. Nothing has ever happened on my street. And I've been living at this property this is year 10. No crime. And I tell people that if there was a crime issue on my block, trust and believe the guests would say it, right? I came here, this happened to me, and they had every right to talk about their experience, right? We as business owners, I'm not here to coerce or try to push somebody into saying, hey, I hope you had a 5-star stay. My Wi-Fi, some people will say, set your Wi-Fi name to leave a 5-star review and stuff like that. That's just not my ministry. I really want people to be honest about how they felt, and I don't mention anything about the review. I let the market do what it's gonna do. And I take those reviews, they're all mostly excellent. I take that feedback and I'm always looking to improve. So going back to the question, working in law enforcement gave me a firsthand experience about public safety and, you know, why people are committing crimes and where they're committing crimes. And that gave me the foresight to buy where I bought, because I knew that this is a gold mine. And, you know, if I had the capital, I would buy more in this area. You know, it is such a gold mine. And as a house hacker, all of my neighbors are house hackers, right? So on this street, except for like I have one neighbor, she's sitting on a gold mine. You know, I wish she doesn't realize what she has going on, the amount of space that she has. But she's, you know, she don't have to do what I do. But all of my neighbors have built additional units on their property. And we all have property, the way that these homes were built. Every house has a side yard or a significant size backyard where you can fit a tiny house in if you wanted to. I mean, you can build an ADU if you wanted to, but we're talking about, you know, over 230,000. That's what the prices are these days. If you're lucky. But everybody has something going on, additional living space that they've added to their property. And this is just what we do here. And we don't have any, I mean, my neighbors are the best. I love my neighbors. We don't have a parking issue. I'm across the street from a school. So outside of drop off and pickup, my street is empty. So I got lucky finding this house, got it at a good price. It's in a great area. I got amazing neighbors. It's a transportation hub. You know, the bus that goes to the train station is right across the street from my house. And it's a 5-minute ride to the train station. That's a 30-minute ride to San Francisco if you want to use public transportation. So I couldn't ask for a better situation. And I would definitely purchase more property in this area given the opportunity. And I would, you know, replicate what I've already done. Buy the property, add some tiny houses to it, and kill it with the ROI.
Heck yeah, man. So first and foremost, how can House Hackers Unite, baby? Because that's my origin story, and I love to see another person, you know, being able to just maximize the assets. You know, assets over liabilities is a big buzzword. You know, the guys over there at EYL, and
Right.
that be more true, right? When you look at single family property as an asset and you try to maximize the return that you can get from it, then you really set yourself up for success. And so hearing about your law enforcement journey and how you were able to utilize the understanding and information that you have from that lens and apply it to another space that you were considering going into, that's incredible. Because, you know, I understand, as they say, you know, the golden handcuffs, the complacency that can be built into, you know, having that consistent, comfortable, reliable 9 to 5. And by all means, don't get me wrong, it is nothing to be scoffed at, nothing to be looked down upon. It is most certainly a valuable tool, but there is another way to structure your life. As you said earlier, you know, I'm not trying to work that hard. What I want to get people to understand is, you know, when you step outside of your comfort zone, it might seem challenging and unsightly in ways that you might not be able to really have the vision of what's possible. But in hearing your story about how you were able to use the tools and experience that you've had from your law enforcement journey and how that served you to be able to grow a $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 a month return off of a single family property. And that is amazing. And it just goes to show that, you know, we have within us the tools necessary already to be exceptional and excel at anything that we choose to. Sometimes it just takes the right time, the right person, the right circumstance for us to really realize that, you know, there is another way for us to break away from that time for money trade-off. You know, Now I'm sure you have a lot more of your time to invest into, considering opening that hotel, and building on top of the business structure that you established in Airbnb. Or if you have, an inclination with music or art or cooking or just whatever, spending more time with your newborn son, like you get to be the arbiter of your life now because you have invested your time in yourself.
I really love that. And if I can go further, I graduated from college with a degree in ethnic studies. I had plans to be a school teacher. And then I realized that, after all those years in school with the student loan, and I was like, I'm ready to eat steaks. And, and I'm like, okay, I got to go get a master's so that I can bump up my salary as a teacher. And I never finished my master's, but I went into, probation work because I'd always worked with youth in different settings. But I was like, all right, well, this is the job that can get me, a significant income bump, and I can still work with the people, with the youth. Initially, in juvenile hall, and then I transitioned to working with adults. But what I didn't know, what I'm doing right now, I didn't know that this was in me. So I've been featured in Architectural Digest. I've been featured in Business Insider, USA Today, Travel and Leisure, Black Enterprise. The Wall Street Journal came to my house. Airbnb came to my house a couple weeks ago to shoot a mini documentary style interview. And there was this whole production crew at my house. When I was working in probation, getting that check, and they just got a nice raise too. I saw that. I was like, it ain't bad. Because I'm just like, I pay $500 a month now for my medical. And I'm just like, I remember when it was free when I promoted to management. Like we had like this extra benefit where we had this extra money, and I'm like, everything, my medical, my dental, and everything was free. So, but now I am designing spaces. I'm in this DIY world where I can now, build a house from the ground up just off of me having the time and energy to, remodel these spaces. And, and I'm just like, wow, all of this press came from the second tiny house that I listed. And I spent a lot of time in that space because I said, I want this to go viral. And I used to sit down in it when I was designing, and I would just sit and look around and say, how do I want people to feel when they step in this space? Because this is tiny house number 2 now. And the first one is doing well. And I'm just like, okay, what can I do? What can I do that's going to get somebody's attention so they can come by and hear this story? I wanted to talk about this house hacking story, this tiny house story. And when I designed this space to get attention, to break the rules, to utilize materials in ways that they're not supposed to be used. So I put wallpaper on the bathroom floor, and I covered it with layers and layers and layers of polyurethane. So when you walk into the bathroom floor, you look down and there's like a message you're walking on, and it says love, love, love. And, I'm like, I did it. I put mirrors on the ceiling, which for a lot of people is a no-no, because what if they fall? I'm like, those mirrors are so reinforced, they're not going anywhere. But it was I'm like, I'm going to take this risk. And I bought a canoe off of Etsy for $1,000. I have a canoe hanging in the living room area over the TV and stuff, because I really wanted to take this to the next level, and I wanted to get the attention, and I got it. It happened. But I didn't know that I had this design thing in me when I was working full time. And now I always tell people, my educational background was in liberal arts. We did research, we wrote papers, research. And so I resigned from my job July 2021. So we're a little over 2 years. Um, Working full time and going through, my daily routine and, being a dad. Um, I never thought about the things that I think about now, right? Now I'm thinking about, what does it look like if I had a boutique hotel? What does it look like if I created an educational platform where I'm teaching people about tiny houses? What does it look like if I go into journalism? What does it look like if I, want to go work for the Airbnb corporation? And, it doesn't have to be that I was in probation work for 30 years and I left. It could be I was an Airbnb host for 6 years. And then I did some interior design work. And then I did some filmmaking. And I did some journalism. And then I went back to working. And then I did some consulting. And, and then, I can look back on my life and say, I did all these things. And I have I lived a great life. I had lots of experiences. I was able to, utilize my education, the research skill that I learned in college to, look into, okay, I'm no longer happy with my career. So let me figure some things out. And the crazy thing about it was that it didn't dawn on me that I'm like, wait a minute, your mortgage is $1,600. What are you scared of? Like, you literally have that covered easily out of, one of these tiny houses is doubling, tripling your mortgage. You have nothing to lose. You have a great career, a great resume, great background, squeaky clean, never been in trouble. If I leave a job, I can also go back to the job or I can do another job. And then, I was just thinking recently, I said, where do billionaires buy groceries? I was thinking to myself, and I was like, Whole Foods? Like we all eat the same steaks. Like when I think about, I may not be in Bugatti or flying private, but when I really think about my quality of life and how I wake up happy and how, when I want to go out and have a nice meal, I have that. I live a relatively, stress-free life. And I'm like, wow, as much as people aspire to reach the level of the 1%ers, let's just say that I don't get there, but I do things that I enjoy and I provide value and I make income and I'm eating quality food. I'm a foodie. I just love some delicious food. I took a step back and I was just like, I can say I eat like a billionaire because we're all eating the same food, right? They don't have billionaire grocery stores, right? Now you may have a private chef that's going to get, the best ingredients, but they don't make grocery stores for private chefs. So like we're standing next to each other, right? And, what I need to survive is the same thing that you need to survive. And it's not necessarily to compare myself to other people, but I just had this moment where I was just like, this is when I don't know if you watched the Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, baby.
Whenever
I guess Wi-Fi is Winter is Coming, and my main one is Mother of Dragons.
Okay. I'm waiting on the next season of the House of Dragon. Whenever they used to celebrate a victory, what did they do? They had a feast. And so I want people to think about that, the ability that we have to go out and say, when somebody graduates and somebody gets a promotion or, we celebrate by breaking bread with each other. And so I am able to, with my small business, to break bread and nourish myself in a way that when people think about it, we are all at the top of the food chain, right? And I'm just like, that is so amazing. And I'm doing it in a way that I never thought I would be doing it. And I am 39, I'll be 40 this year, which is old in NBA years. But it's like, as a professional athlete, I would be washed, right? But well, no, like it's really young, and what the next 20, 30 years look like, right? Who's to say that I wouldn't be doing something totally different and still enjoying myself and still eating steaks? I don't know if you're vegan, no offense, but it's still
I'm plant-based, but
okay.
I eat everything. It just depends on the day and how I'm feeling.
All right, but still, enjoying the things that we get to enjoy in this good country that we live in, and the access to things that my mother didn't have access to, and how if I pass away and I pass on whatever it is to my son, I lived a good life. I want to keep this up. I want to keep this up. That mortgage is only $1,600, So when we talk about, taking risk, and I'm like, the risk for me, if I pursue an endeavor that may not work out, my overhead is significantly low. My overhead is very low. And that's not to say, I would love to have a farm on some acreage with a beautiful view. But if I don't hit that, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a failure, because life is really good outside of that good old government check that I used to get.
Amen. So I don't know if you're a gamer. I don't call myself a gamer because I haven't touched my console in years. That thing is expensive paperwork that collects dust at this point. But there's something you mentioned about being at the top of the food chain. And that's something that I want everyone listening to really understand, that we are at the top of the food chain. You have completed the mission. You have completed the main mission of life, right? And no matter where you are, your present situation in some form or fashion is where you once wanted to be. If you're not homeless, if you're not going without food, if your family is in good health, if you're suffering, you have completed the mission. All right. Everything else that we aspire to, those are all just side missions. Yeah, I want to have a farm with some acreage, and yeah, I would love to, have my own private chef, Michelin star rated, and, fly private and all these other things, right? But as you said, comparison can be the thief of all joy. And one thing I find that we continuously get inundated with is just this idea of more and this continuous consumption culture that is just really poisonous to, our way of life and our ability to live in gratitude and appreciate what we have. And so I love hearing your perspective on your journey thus far and how you're able to find in your journey, the confidence and solitude to say, I am doing well and I can step out on faith and explore other avenues of my life, and it will work out. And you've proven that thus far with your investment journey. And I'm really excited for, the other projects that you have coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So one question, I want to give listeners some more details on the Oakland, California tiny home situation. I know here in Florida, we do have ADUs, we have detached garages and what have you, like my house I'm in now, which is paid for by all the other Airbnbs that we have. I haven't had to pay a mortgage in like 5 years because of short-term rentals, right? We have a detached garage. And so this is a new construction house hack where you have a built-in addition. So we have I want to say a 700 square foot, 1-bedroom garage apartment on top of our 2-car extended garage. And long-term rent, it brings in like $1,500 a month, which is, half of our mortgage. And then the other half is paid for by the other properties that we have. Can you talk about some of the requirements, some of the regulations, some of the things to look for if people are interested in trying to set up and start tiny homes in their spaces?
Yes. Did you know that I had I'm not sure if you've seen I did send you all my listings.
Yes.
The one of mine is a converted garage, a detached garage. Um, and so when you said that, I was smiling, right? Yeah. So tiny houses. When I bought my tiny houses when I bought the first one in 2017, they fell under the blight ordinance. And that ordinance said that you cannot park a trailer or a car or an RV on the side of your home. And this is in Oakland, and a lot of other cities have similar ordinances. They usually piggyback off of each other. And so I was like, okay. So because the tiny houses are considered trailers unless they've been certified as RVs. There is a process where you can have a tiny house on wheels certified to be an RV, and that makes it easier to get it insured. And RV, recreational vehicle, travel trailers for anybody that's confused. So you have this trailer with the license plate. I pay $10 every 5 years to register my trailer. And, there's a house built on top of it, built to the same construction standards as a regular house, if you will, where there's the studs, 16 on center. It's extremely heavy, and it's different than a travel trailer because those are made to be light and they deteriorate rapidly over time. But the tiny house is built like a house. If you have the blueprint for a regular house, it's just a smaller blueprint. And any contractor, carpenter, they can look at the blueprint and build it. So I told myself, well, the blight ordinance says that you can't park a trailer on the side of your house. But this is like, you really can't see the trailer. The house is on top of the trailer. This is uncharted territory. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to ask for permission. I'm going to ask for forgiveness. But before I bought it, I drove around to see who was following the ordinance. And I was like, all right, there's a boat right there on the property. There's an RV right there. I drove to all the neighborhoods. I'm like, okay, ain't nobody following the rules. So I also recognize that there are potholes. There are blighted properties. I mean, the city is blighted, right? So I said, all right, I'm taking this risk doing this, knowing that I got awesome neighbors, knowing that everybody's got something going on there. This is a house hacking community. I said, I'm going to go ahead and slide this tiny house on the side of my house. And if somebody complains, then I'll probably be at the forefront of the movement to legalize the tiny house. Now, it never happened in terms of anybody complaining, but as of November 2021, tiny houses on wheels are now 100% legal to be placed on private property for the purposes of residential living. And that was in part due to the housing shortage. The city is looking for ways to increase the housing supply. And so when that happened, I didn't even know it happened. And I heard, I was like, oh, okay. Let me do some media now because
That's right in your wheelhouse, baby. You like
I'm legit. I'm legit. I kept it on the low. I didn't really want to be out there, but I'm legit now. So the tiny house on wheels is it's a house that sits on top of a trailer. Now, I always tell people, because people don't really understand it, and most people have never stepped foot inside of a tiny house, it's very surprising for them to see how spacious it is. The Marriott has a new hotel concept called the Moxie. Yeah. And in Moxie, the rooms are 150 square feet, 184 square feet, and the largest room is 250 square feet. My tiny house is bigger than all those rooms. And so people don't realize that last time I checked, I said the average hotel room size is like around 300 square feet. So, we don't realize that we have absolutely been, staying in tiny homes. We just call it something different, right? If I'm in a hotel room, then, there's a bed, there's a microwave, there's a bathroom, and it's like a studio. It has all of the basic necessities. But my tiny house has a full kitchen, walk-in shower in the bathroom, sleeping loft, living area, lots of storage space. And I got it for $33,000, the first one. And the reason why, people are saying, well, you can't do that now. Well, there's nobody buying tiny houses. It's still considered, taboo, or an alternative form of living. It's actually gotten more popular, but there are no bidding wars. So I can get online right now and find a bunch of tiny houses across the United States and Canada that are below $50,000, and they're quality builds and different than like a manufactured home, where if you were to move that, you would need, I'm not sure if you've seen a manufactured home or anything big being moved. It says a wide load. You got the big rig, and then you got a truck behind it, and they're driving slow, and they got the light.
Got the flags and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. That's not what's happening with these tiny houses. It's considerably, it's much smaller. And it's just like a travel trailer or pulling a boat. So I tell people, if I have to go to Ohio to get this $40,000 tiny house, which saves me $200,000 versus the ADU, I'm going to Ohio and I'm going to make that road trip, and we're going to drive it back, and we're going to drive slow, and I'm going to kill it with the ROI, because people don't understand the tiny house or how it works. There's so many questions about plumbing and electricity, and a lot of the questions that I had, but they didn't stop me, because I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. It took me a long time. It took me some money, but I made a lot of mistakes. And now what I do now, in addition to running a short-term rental business, is do some consulting. I have a boot camp. I just built out a course to show people, how to do this tiny house thing, how it works. I have a $5,000 toilet that I shouldn't have bought.
Okay.
In one of the tiny houses, because I couldn't figure out a plumbing solution. The composting toilet worked until it didn't work, until I got tired of people's mistakes. Talk about something I didn't sign up for, right? But I literally had a composting toilet in one of the tiny houses, and people were spending $250 a night. So it was on grid with some off grid features because of my property layout. And then I got this incinerator toilet for $5,000, and then I found out about the macerating toilet, and then I have the dry flush toilet. So I'm going through this gamut of different toilets, trying to make the newer tiny house work, only to discover this world of appliances that were developed for a yacht or luxury off grid. So like this toilet is for the person that wants the Rolls Royce of off grid toilets, where everything is burned to dust and you don't have to deal with traditional plumbing challenges, no septic tanks or anything like that. It's brought me into this world of electric pumps, where you can put a living space, a bathroom in a basement. And there's a company in France that specializes in basement bathrooms, where their devices will pump everything upward into the house sewer, to the main sewer line.
That's incredible, because that can be a tremendous difficulty for a lot of people.
And so you're not going to get this information from a traditional contractor, because number one, this is not what they do, right? They're saying we have to go underground and do this. There's only one way to do this. We got to bust up this concrete, and then we have to, go underground, dig a trench, and we have to lay some more concrete. Right? You're looking at $50,000, right? Well, I have a toilet, that's $1,300 that eliminates all that, right? It's the macerating toilet that turns everything into a protein shake and pumps it upward, right? And this company is in France, and they've been doing it for years, and it's inexpensive, and it's quality, and they're not new, but who knew that this existed, right? You wouldn't know because, I mean, there's no reason for most people to even be thinking about this. Toilets are an excellent invention, and they work very well. If your power goes out in the neighborhood, the toilets still work, right? It doesn't require power. You just flush that toilet, and it does what it's supposed to do. It's a great invention. And then when you need, so I'm going off on a tangent, but the tiny house can work for anybody. And there are companies that make solutions to make it work. But the average person is not even thinking about these things, and they don't even know that these things exist to make it work. I am at the point now where all I need is electricity and a water source, and I can set up shop. It's even made me think about the way the military pulls up and they set up a whole community in a day, setting up a medical unit, a cooking space, administrative space with these tents, hooking everything up, setting everything up and in an industrial fashion. And, what if you took some of the military techniques, the military technology, and it's actually low-tech solutions, right? Some electricity, some water, some propane, they make it work. If you live in an area where you have the ability to do this, I mean, people are spending a lot of money glamping, glamping situations, off-grid. And, if somebody doesn't have the money for a tiny house, there are Airbnb listings there that are actually tents. And I got to get away from saying that. But Airbnb is the most popular. So there's short-term rentals that are literally tents in people's backyards. Like, there is an article about a gentleman who lived down the street from the Google headquarters, and he put a tent on Airbnb as a joke. And then people who were visiting Google started renting out his backyard tent. That article is online. It's still online. There's a woman in Berkeley, next to UC Berkeley. She has a tent in her backyard with an air mattress, and people are renting it. $33 a night. Now, if you got to rent it out the whole month, it's $1,000 a tent. She lets them use her kitchen and the inside bathroom. But this tiny house thing has got me thinking in ways that I've never thought. And even if we're not talking about making money, if there's a family who needs additional living space because their family is growing, right? Perhaps somebody has gone off to college and they're coming back, and you want to give them an opportunity to save money and stay home, but you wanted them to have their separate space. A tiny house is a good option. There's a gentleman who took a Home Depot storage shed and built an off-grid. Well, they have electricity and water. Built this extravagant property. And when you look at what he did with the shed, you wouldn't even know that it was just a $13,000 shed. Now this gentleman has resources, and I saw this video online. He's a YouTuber, I forget his name, who does land hacking content.
Rob?
Excuse me?
Is it Rob?
Kai.
Okay.
Yeah, he's collaborated with Rob.
Okay.
I'm going to say his name is Kai Andrews, but he just interviewed him. Let me see. Kai Andrew, land hacker. And so he did this interview with the gentleman. He's like, these are sheds that you can get at a home improvement store. And he turned them into something beautiful. So, a tiny house, my tiny houses are tiny houses on wheels, but when we talk about tiny houses, you get to decide what that is. It is a smaller living space. And there's so many ways that you can pull it off. And when we have corporations with hotel portfolios that are saying our rooms are now going to be 150 square feet, 184, 250. What does that mean? It means that the market has spoken, right? They're trying to get to where they're going. They want it at a reasonable price. And the minimalist movement is a real thing. Give me a bed, give me a shower, give me a toilet, give me a TV, and we're going to be out running these streets, right? So, and then if you make it aesthetically pleasing, right? That's a cherry on top. This actually looks good. Like I have, my converted garage. I have a black bathtub in there. I have the glass garage door. I removed the garage door opener. It doesn't feel like a garage. And I would even challenge people to say, what makes a garage a garage? Is it what you put inside of it? Why isn't this a tiny house that you've decided to put your junk in? Because if it's built and it's framed and the roof is just like your house, all of the structure is the same as your house. Why can't this be an extension of your home, whether you're using it to rent or you're turning into a theater or you're turning into an office or a spa or a podcast studio? We've been told that we can only use this space to store stuff. But it was built to the same standard as the home where you lay your head at night. So I really want to challenge people to think outside the box, if you will, about, tiny, smaller living spaces. And also consider that we have people online on major media outlets doing stories on these 100 square foot micro apartments in New York where they're paying $800 to $1,000 a month, where they have to walk down the hallway and share a restroom, and they spread their arms out and they can touch both walls. I don't know if you've seen those videos.
I've seen those videos.
And I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's what we doing now? Like, I don't know if I can do that. And they're paying how much? And I'm like, whoa. If that's what people are paying for, not knocking anybody, but my spaces, my tiny houses, they are far above and beyond what some of these buildings in New York are offering and what they're charging. So for anybody who is not sold on, investing in a tiny house or furnishing a smaller living space, I would say just look around, look at what these property owners, these developers are doing. Sometimes it's out of necessity, because I don't think anybody really wants to be living in the 100 square feet if they can manage not to. And I'm not knocking anybody, but there's a market for it. There is a market for it, and people are realizing that I just need a place to lay my head at night. A safe place, a clean space, while I work through grad school, or while I work through this internship, or while I'm in transition, or while I'm building my business. I need my overhead to be low. We've all heard about these tech companies that were birthed out of garages. Now, it doesn't mean that they were living in a garage, but starting off small. The Facebook story of everybody, converging on this house and sleeping on the couch and coding. Sometimes you got to get down and dirty to, sometimes you have to downgrade your lifestyle to upgrade your quality of life. And if that means a smaller living space, go for it, because it doesn't mean that it's unsafe. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that it's poverty. It's just a smaller footprint. I'll be going off on a tangent.
No, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, first off, I think that you're dispelling a lot of the misinformation or notions that people have that are, not based in the reality that is your experience, and then so many other people that you just mentioned who are not only surviving with, what's available to them, but thriving and innovating and expanding what's possible based off of really monetarily accessible components that people don't have the right framework to envision, what's possible. And so you sharing your experience and the glamping scene and, utilizing the different things that are available at your local Home Depot or Lowe's, like that really helps people to understand, okay, wow, there's something there. And when you look at like just nationally, I know we were talking about California specifically when it comes to affordable housing, but nationally we have an affordable housing crisis. I mean, we've been underbuilt and undersupplied since the Great Recession of 2008, right? And since then, we've had a tremendous overbuilding in what was built of Class A property, right?
Yeah.
And so when you talk about a re-rating in the economic cycle, where we look at how long they've been saying there's going to be a recession coming, I want to say people have been screaming that for the last 3 years, right? And the jobs numbers have been just fine. However, when you look at the consumer debt and how, credit is ballooned to like $3 trillion or what have you, it's unsustainable. And there does look to be a slowdown that will be coming. And what happens when things slow down? People downgrade their lives and lower their overhead. And that's why you see the Motel 6s of the world and the affordable cost providers really excelling in their profit margins, right? And so for what you just shared, I find that listeners can really take away, there's so much more opportunity and you can, if you're going to do it at an exceptional level, you can do really great. But even if you're going to do it at I don't want to say mediocre level, not in the service that you provide, but just there's tiers to everything. And you don't have to shoot for the top of the mountaintop and have the, gold plated toilets with the marble slab countertops and everything. That is not necessary to be successful and have a sustainable business.
You're absolutely right. I mentioned the military and how they set up shop, is whatever their budget is, billions or trillions or whatever, how they set up shop in it. And I also thought about, and I mentioned the military, but I'm like, this is something, talk about glamping, right? This is something that they are professional glampers. And thinking about people that have been doing things for years, it made me think about the hostels, right? Where people will go backpacking and sleep in bunk beds next to complete total strangers and have the time of their life, traveling through different countries. There's actually a hostel style hotel in Portland on the rooftop where I think you can actually sleep outside. And I saw that, I was like, oh, this is interesting, where there is a market for people who just want a bed and they're okay with vibing with total strangers sleeping right next to them. And there's nothing quote unquote, luxury about that, but businesses have been built on that. And people, I mean, the Moxie Hotel has bunk beds. I was in the Moxie Hotel on bunk beds, right? So you're in 184 square feet with bunk beds, right? They just opened up one in Oakland. I think it's just, I don't think, not a lot of people are paying attention. Most people are not even in the space, but the amount of eye-opening things that I've come across, that not saying that it legitimizes what I'm doing, but just saying that I'm not doing anything special or anything new. It's just that the masses have not caught on or not paying attention. And even the co-CEO of one of the co-founders of Airbnb, he is in the ADU space now, right? They have all the data. They see where things are going. I think that everybody else just needs to catch on. And we are severely underbuilt. So I don't think that I don't know what the solution is outside of building more affordable housing, because even in Oakland, we got these extravagant high rises that have been built and they're sitting empty, right? And I think you alluded to that. This is top tier developments with the rooftop lounges and the gyms, beautiful spaces in prime locations, walkable areas, downtown, and they can't find people to rent these spaces out. They're just sitting empty. And so they're offering 2 months free rent just to get people up in there. So a lot of the building that was done was not for your average working class person. I'm like, are they going to convert? Are they going to go affordable housing? What are they just going to leave them empty?
But even then, when we talk about affordable housing, like what is truly affordable? I want to say some projects that I've seen that have just been completed in the affordable housing category. They're saying in order to qualify, you have to have an income of like $70,000, $80,000. I saw for certain buildings in New York City, and I've even seen some for the same in like Los Angeles. And so, I don't trust big business or big government to figure it out on their own, because they haven't, right? Because there's no incentive for that to occur. And when we look at, say, how right now there's a big issue in the commercial real estate space when it comes to office space, right? We're completely overbuilt there. And they're like, we've got a lot of this bridge debt that is coming due. And, right? So the banking sector is really trembling and shaking in his boots, because a lot of those projects were lent to by smaller local banks. And so they're not really going to have that capital with this increased interest rates right here. And so we've had, decades of like, especially in Texas, we've had decades of just easy monetary policy and easy regulatory environments for builders to continue to focus on putting those dollars in those spaces that have not addressed the affordable housing issue. And what you're presenting with the house hacking, I'm such a proponent of it. House hack, right? But then also when you add that extra layer onto it with, analyzing the lot, that space that you have, and incorporating the tiny home components, then it allows everyday human beings like yourself and I to not only do well while doing well, or do good while doing good. It allows us to really, I feel like, connect with what makes us most human, which is socially contribute to the good of us all. And it's up to us as individuals, and your information you're sharing today and the journey that you've taken is representative of that process. And I want listeners to know that they themselves can also be the change they wish to see in the world.
Hit the nail on it. I could have said it better myself.
And so I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today, my brother. Where can people reach out and learn more about the programs that you have available for educating themselves, for moving forward in the tiny home investing space, in the design space, just everything that you're working on that you've shared today? How can we connect and grow together?
You guys can reach out to me on IG is where I post. I've been posting content, Tiny Oakland, at Tiny Oakland, TINYOAKLAND. You'll find me posting videos of me using the incinerator toilet. I've turned that into content.
Okay. And send me the link for that toilet, because I know there's some people that are going to be like, man, what was that French company that he was talking about? I got to get their info. Because I know that there's people with just regular townhomes or row homes in Baltimore, Philadelphia, in DC that could use that damn toilet right now.
Right. So on Tiny Oakland, I have a link that'll link to the articles where I've been featured. People can contact me. There's also a link to the course that's launching on the 15th. I gotta finish editing. I also have people want to talk, some consulting, tiny house consulting. I offer that as well. But IG is the best way to reach out to me. I'm also on Facebook, Ansel Troy, ANSEL TROY. You can look me up. I don't think anybody else has my same name. And yeah, I want to thank you for bringing me on. This was awesome. This was amazing. I appreciate you having me on your platform.
Absolutely, my brother. Anytime. We will definitely look to have you back.